All right, what's up, guys? It is Saturday. Good morning. Good morning. Dude, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
Feeling good. Feeling good.
So we're gonna spend 10 seconds breaking down the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, and then we gotta find a way to make some money. Did you bet on the fight?
No, I knew not to because if I did, it would have been on Mike Tyson, and that would have just been so frustrating to watch. Oh my
It was
god.
kind of hard to hear through the, of course I put it on, like whatever. It's like watching a car crash. You have to watch it. But it sounded like the fans were like booing. They like didn't want to boo, but they were booing. It's just awkward. Yeah. So waste of time. Anyway, let's find a way to make some money. All these games today, I shouldn't say all of them, but the slate at noon feels like jam packed with big favorites, teams that are vying for the playoffs. So from a gambling standpoint, I definitely want to start there, figure out if there's value on the favorite or the underdog. Let's start with Ohio State Northwestern. The game's at Wrigley Field, kind of strange. Northwestern's played there before. Ohio State hasn't. 4 touchdown favorite, 28 points. I think last week I asked you the same thing. Does Purdue have a chance to keep it close? I know Northwestern's a little bit better than Purdue. How do you see this one playing out?
I mean, you're right. They are a little bit better, and because it is 4 touchdowns, anything's possible. It's one of those scary games. You don't know what Ohio State's game plan is going to be when they go up. Typically, under Ryan Day systems, they kind of just love to pile on points, make a convincing win. I probably expect the same thing here. I don't think Northwestern can hold them. It should be a similar game script. There isn't as much of a gap. Purdue and Northwestern are basically equals. I think you're right. Northwestern's a little better. I don't think they're better enough to keep this game really within 25 points. They could maybe sneaky cover this, like a really, really sneaky, like last minute touchdown to get right in there. But it would take something like that for this to actually like get there.
Yeah, the end zone is really apparently there's not a lot of room in the back of the end zone, so I think the total, excuse me, is a little bit lower than it typically would be. If it was at regular field, keep that in mind. Pittsburgh's got a good record, but they're not really good. They're home. It's going to be their senior day. They're getting 11, 12 points, depending where you look against Clemson. Pittsburgh's just not that great of a football team, but it is senior day. It's at home. Clemson has to win. They still need a little bit of help from SMU or Miami to trip up in order to get into the ACC championship. How do you see that playing out?
I think you're right. I think Clemson, again, this is a team pedigree starting to show that I will give Dabo Swinney credit that he's kind of got them in a decent track. But you're right. Pittsburgh senior day is interesting. It is like a little bit of a wrinkle, maybe enough of a wrinkle to look at this game as a stay away game. But if you're really feeling like betting on it, I think the logic would maybe tell you Pitt's probably the way to go. I think that Clemson's a lot better, but home team, it's an interesting spot, but it's definitely for me a stay away just because of how many different moving parts there are. And yeah, Clemson just scares me every week. Like,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. I forgot to look this up. Do they play the same field the Steelers play? Pittsburgh does.
ooh, I don't think so. I think they have their own field. I'm pretty sure but
They
they
used
might.
to. They don't play at the same field because I was gonna say the Pittsburgh game's home tomorrow, so that didn't make sense. But I didn't know if they had their own field. I think Pittsburgh's home field advantage is it's lackluster. Their quarterback situation's not great. Seems like that number's high for a reason. Clemson noon game though is a little tricky. But what about the Colorado Utah game? Utah, they suck. They're down to like their eighth quarterback. It seems like Colorado's 14-point favorite though. Game's weird. Starts at noon. It's 10 o'clock up there. Does that favor one team or the other? That's your age bracket. I don't know if I'd rather be on the road, be at home, but it's kind of weird that they're playing at 10 a.m., right?
It's really weird. I don't know why they're doing that. I guess the logic is that you can get a noon Big 12 game because there's such little travel time. Both teams basically it will be probably a car ride for both of them. So I think it is a ridiculously high line. I like Colorado a lot. I think they're a fun team to watch this year. People do forget that Utah still has a really solid defense, at least. Like they still play pretty good defense. They kept it really close against a really, really good BYU team without any legitimate quarterback play. I don't see Colorado being that much better than BYU offensively. I think I can see Utah covering this one.
Now, because does Arkansas have a shot? That's a game I'm the most looking forward to because I've been reading this morning about the rivalry. Didn't realize how big of a rivalry it is. Arkansas, Texas. It's like I think the quote that that Sarkisian had was that Arkansas hates Texas more than they like themselves, which is like a great insult, a great one-liner. Give me some insight here into this game, because Arkansas, by just looking at their schedule, they played every single game close except Ole Miss put up 63 2 weeks ago. They get an off week. Texas comes into town. Will Texas put up 60 points also, or does Arkansas have a chance to make this a 3-point game?
This is the game I love too. When I was looking at it, I saw it and thought this is textbook trap game for Texas. This is the kind of game that Texas can drop. It feels a lot like Miami going to Georgia Tech. It gives those similar vibes. Arkansas getting that extra week of rest is important. I think this is a game that could stay close for a long time. I've not been confident in Texas at all since the Georgia game. They stumbled against Vanderbilt. I'm not loving them right now. They do feel like there is a lack of consistency in the quarterback play.
What happened against Florida? Is that a product of Florida's quarterback just being terrible last week?
Look, people gave DJ Lagway a lot of credit for having a good quarter and a half against Georgia. If that, you got to temper expectations with the kid. He's still so young. Like, it's just, he's going to come out. He's going to have good games. He's going to have really bad games. We've all seen young, developing dual threat quarterbacks. Like, think of Anthony Richardson in the NFL. Some days you watch him and you're like, no one can beat this guy. Most of the time you watch him and you're like, okay, well, it's not really all there right now.
And then on the flip, why did Ole Miss score so many against Arkansas? Like, was that an anomaly? Does Texas, don't they have a similar skill set that Ole Miss has offensively, or not exactly?
I mean, they do. It's just Ole Miss, I think, in terms of explosiveness, as far as offenses go in college football right now, I think Ole Miss has the most explosive offense. What Ole Miss did a really good job of was abandoning the run super early in that game because Arkansas is really good in the trenches. That's what screws Texas up a good bit. Is I trust Jackson Dart to throw the ball like 50 times a game for 500 yards, way more than I trust Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning to do that, especially without a run game. That's what makes it interesting, is if Arkansas is able to stop Jaden Blue, stop Wisner from running the ball effectively, it really screws up how Texas runs their offense.
The 3:30 game, the 3:30 slate is pretty dry. It was supposed to feature, I guess it features LSU and Florida. Can we bet Florida? This probably can't bet Florida, right? LSU's 3.5-point favorites. I don't want to bet LSU. Any thoughts on that game?
Again, yeah, it's a road team getting favorite points. And again, what I was saying about DJ Lagway still holds true. I think he's still capable of having those games. I wouldn't suggest betting on him. That is a line that I'd look at and probably say the safer money is on LSU to cover that. But there is that outside shot that DJ Lagway makes this really hard to watch for a lot of LSU bettors.
Yeah, and then it's just the theme all day long, which is these playoff teams that are vying for position all seem to have pretty big numbers as favorites. And we know 2 or 3 of them are going to lose. So it's like, it's always hard to figure out before, but at the end of the night, it's the same thing every single Saturday, which makes this sport so exciting. So the next one on the list, SMU, they're home against Boston College. And in the same vein, Penn State's at Purdue. Any chance either one of those that there's drama, or you think both numbers get covered?
I think Boston College, if you go back a couple weeks, you can maybe make an argument. They've had a bunch of weird stuff going on with their quarterback. It's been a really weird situation. Shocker, Bill O'Brien's involved in some sort of weird diva stuff going on with his players. It seems to follow him literally everywhere he goes. But Boston College, I think, is done this year. I would love to see him keep it close against SMU, but I don't really see it happening. Purdue, Penn State, I can't make any argument for Purdue even keeping that.
Same thing with Virginia, right? Like, they can't challenge Notre Dame. That doesn't seem. Although one of these games, I know we keep saying it, but one of these games will be more interesting than we think, right?
Yeah, and look, Notre Dame did lose to Northern Illinois. Like, they can still come out and put up a horrible performance. I don't think Virginia is the opponent that's going to give them that push. If I had to guess right now, and it's weird, but I do think Arkansas against Texas is probably the game you should be looking at to stay the most competitive for the longest right now.
As we get towards nighttime, before we get to Tennessee and Georgia, South Carolina is a huge favorite. Everybody should know because Missouri's got their backup quarterback. South Carolina still has a chance. Both teams still have a chance to make the SEC championship. Is that number as big as it should be? Is that a little sketchy to you? What's it, like 12 or 13 South Carolina's favored by?
Yeah, it's too much. I think South Carolina has been a team that's operated so well being the underdog. It's been a really big motivator. You can just tell when they're playing teams that they're not supposed to beat. They come out, just the energy is different, the way they play is different. Giving them such a big book line advantage. I don't think we'll play the way that a lot of people think. I can see Missouri keeping this close, maybe even winning it. I wouldn't be shocked if we see like a really just gross South Carolina offensive performance today. That'll just make it, that game might be incredibly difficult just to watch. If you end up seeing Lenore Sellers come out, throw a couple picks, it could just end up being just a gross, really hard to watch college football game.
I feel like that's going to be the vibe in Madison tonight. It's going to be, first of all, if there's one pregame to watch ever, it's a Wisconsin home game, especially a Wisconsin home night game. There will be a little bit of green and yellow as Oregon travels to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin will get loud and they'll jump up and down and they'll be very excited. But I expect all their fans to be like, why are they so much faster than us? Why do they keep running by us? Am I missing anything there? Because Wisconsin, they got smoked by USC. They started that gave me pause. I just feel like Oregon's going to blow them out.
They will, but the only thing, if you want to look for a wrinkle, is that Wisconsin struggled against prototypical Pac-12 offensive styles, just throwing the ball. You're right, the speed stuff. Oregon does like to run the ball more than the typical Pac-12 team. I think it's what made them so dangerous last year, is that they're not playing Pac-12 football necessarily. It's the reason they've translated so well to the Big Ten. It's because they run first, and they have a great quarterback, which means they can run first, and then if they're forced to throw, they got the, I guess now all-time leading, I think, touchdowns or yards guy in college football, in Dylan Gabriel. So I think, if you can see Wisconsin throw them off their game a little bit, this could be one of those games that, like, going into halftime is like a one-touchdown game. That being said, I think most likely it'll end up spreading out pretty comfortably by the end.
All right, so we set it all up. First of all, Georgia, Tennessee, are you going to the game?
I'm not. I didn't get tickets, and if I wanted to buy them on like a second market, it would be like $300, and I just, no, I can't.
So Georgia is okay. Help me figure this out. They're big favorites, but every single story points towards like, oh, Tennessee matches up great. Tennessee's defensive line, Georgia's offensive line's not that good. Georgia's having trouble running the football. This game should be tight. It should be more of a defensive battle. Carson Beck is struggling, but like they're 9-point favorites. It is a home game. It is nighttime. It will be. I don't think it's an elimination game for Tennessee. I don't know. Things can happen, but it borderline's going to feel that way. I think for Georgia, it frankly is an elimination game, right? So how do you see it playing out? Why don't we start with Georgia when they have the ball? Go ahead.
Well, I have heard a lot of people talking about the run offense not working that well. And I want to point people to the end line for Nate Frazier against Ole Miss. He ran the ball fine. Trevor Etienne did not, and didn't end up playing, and is hurt. And he's been, I guess, he's not playing this game. It's a weird situation. I think it's an injury, but again, with Georgia players, you can always assume that it might not be. I think we're going to be fine running the ball, or at least fine enough. But again, what I said before, my issue with Mike Bobo, he does this a lot. Can't do it again here. There's this misconception in the Georgia team that they're still a run-first offense. They haven't been that all year. The run offense is not as good as the pass offense. You got to throw the ball early. You got to at least. It's been ugly a lot with Carson Beck, and I know I've been watching it. I've been complaining about it the whole time. You just got to keep throwing the ball because your best players are throwing the ball. They've looked the best when their offense is throwing the ball 40 times a game, running 20.
But what about the pass rush for Tennessee up front?
It's a huge problem. What I do like about Georgia, and I think they can script well, is they have a lot of guys that are good after the catch. Arian Smith was a Olympic level sprinter in high school, and now he's on the offense. So he's a guy you can look at, maybe screen passes. You have a bunch of really good tight ends. They're guys that can catch screen passes and run too. I think you got to, instead of looking for the big play every time, which they tended to do a lot against Ole Miss, just short passes, just move the ball. It doesn't need to be the most flashy offense. You don't have to beat Tennessee with like finesse or anything. Just go out there, make some short passes, make them think, wait, we might need to not try and target this passing O-line, and instead maybe try and cover a little more. It can open up the run game a little bit. But what you can't do is come out trying to run the ball the first 2 plays and then looking for a bomb over top.
One thing I heard one of the analysts say this week that made a lot of sense is that they're trying to treat the offense like it's an NFL offense, get Carson Beck ready, and maybe it's helping him go through the growing pains of reading defenses, and that's why he's throwing a lot of interceptions. But I think to your point, the athletes just get them the ball, especially at home. Get the big offensive lineman guys out in space. Try to hit the linebackers 6 yards here, 7 yards there. Because isn't the way Georgia wants to play, especially the way they played against Texas. That's the game that Kirby wants to play. He doesn't want to play the Alabama game. He wants to just suffocate Tennessee's offense, win this game 17-6, 20-3, 20-9, something like that. But can he do that? How does Tennessee's offense going to match up against Georgia's defense?
Horribly. In my opinion, that's been the reason I've gone through this whole week with not a lot of worries about Georgia winning. Is check Nico Iamaleava, whatever, his stats on the road. He's horrible on the road. They lost to Arkansas on the road. He cannot play outside of a home atmosphere right now. He looks shaky. If you have a quarterback that looks shaky and you tell him, hey, go up, line up against Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker for Georgia, they're going to be terrorizing him all night. Like, it's going to be one of those matches. If he doesn't feel comfortable in that pocket, it gets late fast. Like, it gets ugly really quick for Tennessee. I think what they're going to have to do is try and assert dominance running the ball. The issue has been that Georgia's been pretty solid at containing running backs, at least running the ball recently, ever since I'd say probably the Alabama first quarter. It's been a really solid run defense.
Will Tennessee run the no-huddle offense?
I think they'll try, but again, it's not going to work to the same degree against other teams. Georgia's a really well-conditioned team. That's been a big part of like Kirby programs since he got here, is making sure that the players are able to be conditioned. He's one of those guys that Jordan Davis in good enough shape to be playing like multiple downs at a time, which is something you really don't see guys as big as Jordan Davis doing. I don't think the no huddle will work to the same effect as it does against like other teams that tire out a little quicker.
Why is Nico the quarterback for Tennessee? He's a dual threat. He likes to run. I know he struggles on the road, but why does that not frustrate you the same way Milroe would? Like you said, that's the kryptonite for Georgia's defense. What's the difference about him in particular that doesn't scare you?
The physicality. Milroe is out there, and the scariest part for me about Jalen Milroe is he's one of those dual threat quarterbacks. And when he gets out, he's not afraid to try and run through a guy. He's not afraid to try and take some contact. When I watch Nico play, there is, and again, he's been nursing an injury that's going to impact how he subconsciously plays once he scrambles. He won't want to take those hits. He'll be a little more afraid of trying to run into especially a Georgia defender, because Georgia will hit hard. Georgia will be out there. They're not trying to hurt. They're just trying to really send a message with their hits. I think you'll see Nico try and go for it early. I think he will. Again, he gets that one hit. He's someone like just buries him into the ground. It's going to mess up his whole psyche for the rest of the game. And again, it comes down to this game more than any other game. I said it about Jackson Dart, Carson Beck. This is the game where it comes down to how the quarterbacks play. It comes down to, is Nico going to come out and establish himself and get the confidence going? Because if he does, Tennessee has a real shot. Is Carson Beck going to come out, complete some passes early, get his confidence to a not like a super high confidence level? Because when he gets there, he just starts throwing the ball wherever, and now you've thrown 3 picks in a quarter. You want him kind of in a little bit of a flow state mentality where he's not going for the big play every time, but he is willing to take that risk when he needs to and stuff.
If it's 7-0 Tennessee, and then I'm sorry, then I'll shut up and I'll speak positivity into the air. But if it's 7-0 Tennessee or 3-0 Tennessee halfway through the first quarter, and we get another 3 and out from Georgia, did the fans start to turn on Carson Beck?
They've already turned. I mean, look, you got to understand, they're looking for validation for hating Carson Beck. They want to win this game, but more than anything, they really want to be right about Carson Beck not being the quarterback. And so he's in a really rough spot. The great news for him is he doesn't really seem to care. And I'll give him credit for that. He really doesn't care about how people perceive him, which is a plus or a minus depending on how you want to look at it. But this
just does feel like whoever scores first. I like a defensive matchup in this game. I'm looking forward to it. All right, man. I appreciate you going through all the games. Well, not all of them, but a good amount of them. But yeah, the way that the schedule is, if you're betting today, I think you have to have strong convictions if you're giving these 2 touchdown favorites. If not, you just got to stay away. So for you, Arkansas is the biggest one that could pull off the upset. Cool. We'll have some bets out, some props out here in a little bit. I'll be here in the morning to yell about the Squealers and speak a Ravens win into existence and go over the rest of the games. Football should be great here down the stretch. So Appreciate you. And then we got a ton of college basketball also. Maryland, a tough loss last night. I'll talk about that early next week. So, all right, guys, have a good day. See you, buddy.
Bye. See you.